reasons we come to meditate is because we want to deepen our understanding of what the Buddha taught. To do that, we need to improve our mindfulness and clear comprehension, and really look and observe our own experience as it is. We get many useful teachings from the Buddha that we read about and hear about, and they help to shape our understanding of the way things are and give us help to overcome our suffering in daily life on many levels. But still we have to really look more deeply into our own consciousness, our own mind. And this isn't easy because our mind doesn't want to settle down or observe anything very closely. Our habit is to move from thought to thought, mood to mood, object to object. And we can see that when we come to sit meditation. Part of the mind is always looking for something else to do. Even though we've planned to come on a meditation retreat, follow the routine, part of the mind is still thinking about things that we want to do elsewhere, work, family, that job that still needs doing somewhere. Or even in the monastery, we start thinking about other things that we can do to take our mind away from the present moment, from the meditation. This is just our habit. We're always thinking about the next thing, planning, sometimes fearing, worried about the next thing. So we need to practice more mindfulness, develop the strength of mindfulness so that we can know our own mind in the present moment and observe more closely what's going on. We're learning to observe more closely the truth, the Dhamma. Dhamma means truth, and it's something we have to know and investigate. As we chanted this morning, the Dhamma, the qualities of the Dhamma, it's apparent here and now. It's the truth as it's appearing right here, right now. The truth of our own body, mind, and our interaction with the world is apparent here and now. It's timeless because the truth is here right now in this moment. It's not something from the ancient past or something that we're going to find out about in the future. Truth is from moment to moment, it's timeless. It's encouraging investigation. We're looking and learning from our experience to understand better how it is, and particularly to understand where suffering comes from what causes it, and how to end it. And there's a purpose for what we're doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And we give up our time to meditate, come and stay in the forest, sleep in a simple tent, camp, for a purpose. And that's to train to see the Dhamma so that we can free our mind from suffering. Already part of the mind will say it's too difficult because we're used to moving around, doing all these different activities in our life, thinking and planning. To turn our attention inwards, to look at the mind more closely, it's difficult, it's challenging. So already the mind will throw up obstacles and say, oh, it's too difficult. Like the man who came to see Chah and complained that the Dhamma is just too deep, too profound to understand. Said it's like digging a well down into the ground trying to collect water. And the water is just too deep down to get, to make use of. Ajahn Chah said the problem is not the water is too deep, but your arm is too short. The real problem is we don't try hard enough, often enough. We haven't trained enough in the past, we haven't practiced enough in the past. So particularly in the beginning, it can be hard going, training this mind. But it's possible. And the reason the Buddha, after his awakening, started to teach the Dhamma is because he saw that human beings do have the potential to learn, to understand, and free themselves from suffering. But it does take practice, training. So the Buddha was fairly optimistic that even though we have our ignorance, our attachment already, these things can be abandoned. But we have to practice, cultivate the path of practice. If we look around, humans, even animals, we can train to do many things in this world. We ourselves have already trained and learned many skills, many kinds of knowledge, so that we can live in the world, earn a living, go about our business. So it's nothing unusual. But when we come to train this mind, it's frustrating. And maybe the rewards are not immediately obvious. We'd all like to be peaceful, happy, content. But when you sit down to meditate, that may not be your experience. You may have many thoughts coming up. Restlessness, doubts, worries. Maybe your body is uncomfortable, painful, tired. And that's the reality we have to start with. But the Buddha said we can train, we can practice. Ajahn Chah used to say, well, just look at the water buffalo. Even they can be trained. They're not so smart, but they can be trained to plough fields, pull things, carry things. So surely we can train our minds. Or like the cat that was with Lumpur Fan at Tam Kam, forest monastery on a mountain in northeast Thailand. The monks used to gather every day to eat their meal and sit in a line. And they'd put a plate of food down for the cat, and the cat would sit at the end of the line of monks. And the monks would all meditate before they ate. No one would dare to eat before the teacher. And the cat had to learn the same thing. The cat was hungry just like the monks. But if it didn't see the monks eat, it wouldn't eat. It'd just sit there. Once it saw the monks starting to eat, then it would eat its food. Even a cat can learn that. So we're learning to train body and mind. We train our body in the precepts, not to harm others through our speech, our actions, to be kind, compassionate, content, sober, honest. And this helps support the training of the mind. If we don't know how to train and learn the precepts, then it's very difficult to practice sitting and walking meditation. The mind is too agitated, it's too confused, too worked up. But once you undertake precepts, 5 precepts, and best of all 8 precepts, then when you sit meditation already your mind has a certain level of peace. It's not so distracted. It's not so far away from the Dhamma. But still we have to train, practice with the meditation object, such as the breathing. All we have to do is pay attention to the in-breath and the out-breath as we're sitting. Or if we're walking meditation, we just have to pay attention to the feet touching the ground as we walk back and forth. The important thing is to keep practicing, keep training, to put up with the different feelings of frustration or distraction, and to keep doing it. Nearly always it's the continuity of effort, coming back to the breath over and over again, willing to do that, that brings results. Being willing to set aside other thoughts, other concerns. So when you're meditating on the breath, you're telling yourself you don't need to think about work or home, or what other people are getting up to. You don't need to plan the rest of your day. You can take time off from all of that. Put your attention on the breathing. Get to know your breath as it is right now. It may be very long, refined breaths in, breaths out. Maybe faster, shorter breaths. Maybe you have a cold or some health issue that interrupts your breathing, so you have to allow for that. But you're just getting to know your breath as it is, taking an interest in it. So this is what we call the practice of mindfulness, mindfulness directed to the breath, or recollecting the breath, keeping the breath in mind. And if we keep doing that, sooner or later you'll find your mind sticks more with the breath than the other thoughts. At first it's the other way around. All the thoughts, the daydreams are more interesting than the breath. You have to allow that time for things to change a bit and you become more familiar with the breath. Because the breath has a calming effect on the mind. Once you get to know it, it's quite pleasant, enjoyable. You can feel good in body, feel good in mind as you're watching the breath. And this is one of the benefits of learning meditation. You can turn to the breath at times when you're particularly stressed or agitated to calm yourself down, find some inner peace. But even if you're not particularly stressed, you're using the breath as a way to improve mindfulness, steady the mind, keep coming back to know the breath, know the breath. It's this quality of knowing, presence of mind that we're training in. So you don't have to form an opinion whether you like your breath or you don't like it, whether you're good at doing it or not. This quality of knowing is very neutral. It's part of the Buddhist path, which we call the Majjhima Patipata, the middle way. So you're neither forcing things, you're not careless, lazy, you're not caught into liking or disliking, but just knowing. That's the quality you're aiming to bring up, the quality of knowing directed to the breath as it is right now in your own body, in this place, at this time. One of the results of practicing this is that you feel more calm, more steady, the more mindfulness you have. Maybe even your own breathing starts to change because you become more mindful of it. And it settles down into a more peaceful rhythm. It can become more subtle, more refined, maybe longer. Your breath becomes slower maybe, longer, more refined. So your body experiences the benefit of that. But the danger, of course, is that you can fall asleep, very similar to when you're falling asleep at night. So you have to stay alert. Keep following the breath. Keep letting go even of daydreams or the feelings of fuzziness that come in when you're falling asleep. And don't let them take over your mind. And don't let your mind become dull. But as your attention keeps returning to the breath, this quality of knowing improves. becomes more continuous, more steady. So it gives rise to sampajanya, clear comprehension, clear all-round knowing. You're knowing the breath, you're knowing the mind, you're knowing the body, you're knowing the feelings that are arising. What we call the 4 foundations of mindfulness, satipatthana. They arise out of this one quality of knowing. As you know the breath, then you also know other characteristics of the breath, the impermanence of the breath. We breathe in, we breathe out. It starts, it stops. Just intellectually, on the level of memory, of course, we all know that. Everybody knows that the breath is impermanent. It starts, it stops. But now you're knowing with the mind. Knowing whether the breath is long, the breath is short. Knowing the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, the end of the breath. And as you do this and you're letting go of other things, other kinds of thoughts and views and opinions, the breath has this ability just to calm the mind, and the sense of self-view already diminishes a little bit. The sense of being a person, me with all my problems, all my ambitions, my likes, my dislikes, my hopes, my fears. This all fades away when you're just knowing the breath go in, the breath go out. If you become familiar with that awareness, that understanding of mindfulness, clear comprehension, then it also changes your perspective, the way you look at things. Because you know that this body is impermanent, one breath in, one breath out, it's constantly changing. The feelings of the body are constantly changing. Sometimes pleasure, sometimes pain, pleasure, pain, back and forth. Thoughts arising and ceasing, just like the breath, arising, ceasing. This is giving rise to panya, insight, knowing the changing nature of body and mind, the way it is. When there's not much mindfulness, there's not much clear comprehension, not much wisdom, then you'll notice your mind is just stringing along, tagging along, following every thought, getting lost in every different story that the mind creates, and constantly creating fresh stories to believe in, and trying to make things happen, trying to find success, get the things we want done in life, getting annoyed or upset when there's obstacles and difficulties and problems that we didn't want. That's the level we're normally working on. And we're not seeing the deeper level of truth, the Dhamma, that all things are impermanent. So much of our experience as humans, when we're not that mindful, not much insight, is we have dissatisfaction, discontent. As we chant, association with the disliked is dukkha. Separation from the liked is dukkha. Not attaining one's wishes is dukkha. And this is much of our experience as human beings when the mind is untrained, unaware, constantly discontent with what we've got. We're constantly looking for something other than what we've got and getting disappointed because we don't get what we want. Well, you notice when you practice breath meditation, these qualities, mindfulness, clear comprehension, wisdom, come up more and more. And these also create other good qualities of mind. Get more self-confidence, patience, more goodwill, more tolerance. So then the dukkha of life, being with things you don't like, being separated from what you do like, it becomes more tolerable and you don't suffer so much with those things, those experiences. We all have to get older, sometimes we get sick, sometimes the people we live with, they like us, sometimes they don't like us. We get what we want, we don't get what we want. As you practice more mindfulness, you know that's just the way it is, rather than always reacting with pleasure and displeasure. They're really two sides of the same thing. When we're not aware, we're conditioned by ignorance, then we tend to just grasp at our experience. So when things go well, we're happy. We grasp at happiness when we get what we want. When we get the food we want, talk to the people we like, get the entertainments we want, get the job done that we wanted to do, get our problems out of the way, we're happy. But then that happiness doesn't last for very long and already we're back with more problems, more things that we don't like. We're constantly flipping between like and dislike, content, discontent, happy and then not happy again. This creates mental agitation and feelings of insecurity. Even when we get what we want, we're worried we'll lose it again. Nothing lasts forever. But one who practices a lot of breath meditation, they already know that nothing lasts forever. Because they see that every time they meditate with the breath. Breath goes in, breath goes out. Nothing is certain, nothing lasts. They know that, so they don't suffer with it. They can accept that truth. And when we're not so aware, and we haven't contemplated, we're constantly getting annoyed that we can't keep the kinds of happiness and pleasure that we found, or we can't get them back again. It can make us very frustrated, selfish. You might say living in a state of denial, not accepting the truth of impermanence. We're always trying to make things permanent. And so life can get very stressful like that. As Ajahn Chah said, like the dog that eats until it's full, and there's still a bit of food left, so it just lies there with the belly full. And anyone who comes near the food, it growls and threatens them, still hoping for that food, even though his belly's full and he can't actually eat anymore. Human beings are not much different. We're always growling at other people if we think they're going to take away our happiness or come and get what we've got. So we suffer. In the end, all we need is one breath in, one breath out. We can use that to see the Dhamma, to see impermanence, to let go of our attachments. And it's a very profound practice. The Buddha said one who practices mindfulness of breathing can practice all the way to Nibbana, to the end of suffering. Completely free their mind from delusion, from greed, from anger, from worry, fear. But we have to be willing to practice, willing to train. So we have some time left at the end of this session. We can carry on meditating till we hear the sound of the bell.